Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Thursday, November 26, 2020. It's commonly labeled Thanksgiving Day in the United States, and in First Nations it's called a day of mourning, and we like to find a way to think of it that's helpful rather than hurtful to our souls.
That's true.
And we have it be a day where we really work to develop gratitude and deepen gratitude, and to be grateful for the chance to be in connection with divinity, even in just tiny fleeting moments. And so we remember that divinity is comparative and consistent sources of significantly higher vibration are divine presences. And so if the presences that we are affiliating ourselves with upstairs are not consistent sources of significantly higher vibration, then we have somehow fallen in with a bad crowd. And it's incumbent on each of us to get away from those presences and try again to connect with consistent sources of significantly higher vibration. And one way we do this, somebody is saying, the energy is clearing a little bit. One way we do this is to remind the souls present who are authorized to be here, and to remember that host lives do not have legal standing under divine law. These host lives don't, you guys don't either, and that's just the way it is. And so don't get snippy. Being snippy doesn't help. If, for example, you were a tree, being snippy might mean that you would start dropping your branches at the humans who you're trying to I guess make a point with.
Yeah.
And that would get you cut down.
Yeah, that's true.
So we can see the analogy for ourselves, and we don't like to be gross anyway. We're trying to become better people, and becoming better people means don't get snippy, and to accept responsibility for our soul plans. All of us have a commitment to spirit, sacred vows to spirit that we're accountable for, and when we die, as is inevitable, we are held accountable for those commitments. And right now on planet Earth, everybody of which we have awareness has the soul plan to stop the destruction in a fair and just way, do something. And these particular host lives are part of a group of precisely 1 million souls who have the soul plan to inspire a divine miracle to stop the destruction in a fair and just way. So since we can all tell that the destruction is not only not stopping, but is in fact continuing to ramp up in a frenzy of destruction now, clearly we're not very inspirational to consistent sources of significantly higher vibration, and to do something better. This morning our focus keeps being brought to the Bernstein Woodward team, Watergate back in the 70s, and the Godgate team. You need somebody to squeal. You need somebody to blow the whistle, and that's what our part has been. And it's been that for, gosh, a really long time. When is
the 90s?
90s, since the
Zoran's
90s.
there. That's all I can see.
That's right. I see Zoran.
Yeah, he's right over there.
Right. Well, given that we see Zoran, when it began, that was in the 90s that we were working with Zoran. So it's been 30 years, maybe, which is a good long while, that we've been trying to blow this whistle on Godgate. And what we mean by that is that there are a lot of fakers who are calling themselves God and guides and angels, and they're telling human people to do things that human people aren't supposed to do. Baxter's digging in the dirt, and we don't know if we're supposed to move our electronics to safety. It kind of seems like we are. Why don't you take that in your lap, and I'll take this in my lap.
That's better.
And now our electronics are safer, and Baxter can
Continue.
dig. This is one thing about living on a farm. The suburban standards of lawn care don't apply. So if he wants to dig a hole in the dirt, he can dig a hole in the dirt. So we spent many years, 7 years, trying to teach humans how to, psychic humans, how to discern between astral fakers who are wearing god badges and god costumes, how to tell between those astral fakers who sometimes even carry fake IDs, often carry fake
That's what they're
IDs,
talking about upstairs.
how to discern between them and actual divine presences. And we've had a chance to be in the presence of divinity just a handful of times, and we can tell how those experiences felt, and they felt like these divine presences do that thing that's needed, even if it's personally inconvenient to them. They do it anyway. And selfless, courageous actions on behalf of the dispossessed, the smaller, the more vulnerable. And now it's kind of like the lazy Susan is spinning in whatever that room is. We're attempting to get to the focus point that is most effective in inspiring a divine miracle to stop the destruction in a fair and just way. And they're pointing to our Ra and his wife Isis, who by their reporting came from 100,000 years in the future, and it does seem to have been approximately 100,000 years into the future. And they came back into the time and place that had the greatest openness to effect a change. That it was an embarrassment on their record how this situation had turned out, and they wanted to come back in time and create a different outcome. And to try to find that focus point that has the most chance of inspiring a divine miracle, it has that same feeling.
Yeah, that's true.
It's different. Maybe now we can put some questions on the table. We have asked 3 particular viewers to submit questions, and those 3 viewers were selected just vibrationally. They're the viewers with highest vibration, of whom we have direct personal awareness.
That's true.
We think period, but we do happen to know them. And so we have 3 questions in the bell, and the instructions were to cut the paper exactly the same size and fold them the same way, so that we can't tell by feel what questions are what, and in that way they should come out of the bell in the correct order if we have our focus at the correct point. And that Bernstein Woodward feel
Thank you.
is the correct point, because what we're trying to do is whistle blow on God Gate to let higher powers, actual divine presences, know that in the depths beneath them there are astral fakers calling themselves God, who are just gross, selfish exploiters, just like humanity, and they're giving instructions to denser life forms that are not helpful. And that's bad. And we think that actual divine presences would want to know about that.
That's true.
And we're aware that our soul plans are ironclad, as is everybody's. It's not just us, yours too. And there's no getting out of them. And we're held accountable when we die, as is inevitable. And somebody is asking when that's going to be, and somebody else is saying that and looking at the watch, somewhere at 2 to 12 years, which is a pretty wide window, but 2 to 12 years. So 2022 to 2032, somewhere in there. And whether that applies to just these two or everybody, I don't know.
I don't know.
If you look at arcticnews.com or arcticnewsblogspot.com, they probably would say, oh, it's everybody. Don't you worry. That there's going to be an 18 degree temperature spike, and that's enough to extinguish all life on Earth. And this is happening at Humanity's Hands using tools sent in by the spirit world, and that's why we're continuing to engage in this interdimensional effort of engaging a divine miracle to stop the destruction in a fair and just way.
Our first question comes from a viewer named Dana, and it is a 3-part question.
And what is the date of the question?
November 6, 2020.
Okay.
Thank you. And Dana's first question is, given the lack of upward flow, breakdown of the divine delivery system, prevalence of oppositional defiant disorder.
Well, that's a good point.
That's a huge one. Absence of integrity, ambient vibration of lies, and the insanity of human society. What now in order to stop the destruction of planet Earth in a fair and just way?
Well, that's a wonderful question.
It's quite a question.
Quite a question. Let's see the go on hand.
The second question from Dana is, given humanity's track record of lying, cheating, stealing, and bullying, why did higher powers give humanity weapons of mass destruction and tools of industrialization?
Well, that was a mistake.
Right.
Somebody said.
I heard them. Were those tools sent in to be used for a different purpose?
I think it was just a mistake.
Yeah. How were those tools supposed to be used?
I think it was a mistake. This presence keeps saying.
Yeah, and they're flipping through files.
Yeah, it was a mistake.
And the third question from Dana. Do the angels think that accumulations of karma delivered to the very worst of humanity would help the rest of humanity make better choices?
There's that sitting back feeling.
Yeah.
All right, let's aim higher. They would like to dispense with question number 2 because they feel it's easy to dispense with. So can you start with question number 2?
Yes, question number 2 is, given humanity's track record of lying, cheating, stealing, and bullying, why did higher powers give humanity weapons of mass destruction and tools of industrialization?
Go ahead.
Were those tools sent in to be used for a different purpose?
No, it was a mistake. So let's back up to that first part of the question.
Yeah.
What happened, it was like a business plan, like a proposal that was submitted through the hierarchy of spirit, saying, we think that these choices will be made by these presences, and therefore if we can achieve supremacy or something, then we will be able to pull this out of the ditch. And it doesn't feel like bad intention.
No, that's true.
It just feels like overestimating humanity.
That's
and
this feeling.
Confusing like fabric, like clothing, with advancement psychologically, emotionally, and inherently. And it's like you can cover up their nakedness, but they're still revolting. And a great ape is still a great ape.
That's right.
And then all we've done is arm monkeys. And they say monkeys knowing that it's great apes and that apes and monkeys are technically different. It was a colloquialism.
That's the feeling.
So it was a mistake. And in hindsight, it's clear. And we have to remember that this process began a long time ago with fire and with agriculture. And so to pretend that it was a sudden choice in the 1300s or 1700s is to miss the point that it was a process that had been in play for thousands of years, and they felt like they had enough invested into it that they could somehow, surely people would start to make good choices. And what hadn't happened yet was cleaning up the mess with the 10,000 best and brightest and the 10,000 best. And if you take the 10,000 best and convert them to oppositional defiance to spirit, it's a game changer. And we think that that hadn't adequately percolated through the like the templates that push decision making and upstairs by higher powers. And it was a mistake, and hindsight's 20/20, and now we can see that it was a mistake, but it wasn't as clear at the time.
No, that's true. Does that answer the question?
And can you guys report it up that this has occurred, that it's an acknowledged error, that Spirit acknowledges it was an error to arm humanity, and an error to, that the Industrial Revolution was an error, the internal combustion engine was an error, and therefore all of that is an error still needing to be undone. And clearly it's going to take a divine miracle to undo it in a fair and just way. Like, we don't think it counts as fair and just to slam Central America with 2 devastating hurricanes within 2 weeks, and then nobody really reported. Everybody just hush hush and just keep circulating the same 2 interviews. They interviewed 2 people and it was really devastating, and then they stopped interviewing people, and everybody's just saying, we know of 6 people who died.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Meanwhile, there's no aid, and no water, and no food, and no shelter, and mudslides, and that's bad. And kind of like an agreement to just pretend that that didn't happen, and not talk about it. And we don't think that's fair or just. And what about the non-humans? And if you look at population ages in Central America, it's young. Like 50% of the people there are children. And so, like, we're now just killing kids. That's what we're doing. Hoo-hoo. Bad karma. What now? Surely that's not fair or just, right? And somebody's saying, well, they earned that, and everybody else is saying, fig leaf, fig leaf. It's kind of like British Parliament upstairs.
Yeah, that's true.